Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. How are you? TikTok, what's going on? YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. How are you? It's Sunday afternoon. I'm Brian Manning. I'm an asylum lawyer. My law firm is called Political Asylum Lawyers. And what we do is we help immigrants all over the United States to secure their future in America through asylum. So I'm going to answer your questions. I love answering your questions about asylum. Let me know in the comments what questions you have. Actually, say hello first. Let me know where you're watching from. Love to hear where you guys are at. So say hello. Let me know where you're at. And then start leaving your questions. Start leaving your questions. Anything you want to know about asylum in the United States, I want to talk about it. I want to engage and answer your questions. All right. This is the Asylum Answers Show, and I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer. I used to be an asylum officer with the government, with USCIS, but now, as an asylum lawyer, well, my law firm, we help people all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. I use the insights that I got from working for 11 years for the government's two main agencies for asylum and refugee matters. And we use those insights now in service of our clients, helping them present the strongest case possible, giving them the best chance to win their case so they can secure their future here in the United States. That's what we do all day, every day. Hello. Good to see you too. Yep. Nice. Very nice. Okay. All right. TikTok. How's it going, guys? Okay. Very good. So listen, start leaving your questions. Say hello. Tell me where you're watching from and start leaving your questions. But then first, before I answer your questions, I want to say a couple of words about this topic. Sometimes it happens that conditions in a person's country can improve while their asylum case is pending here in the United States, and that can hurt their chances for winning their case. Now, this is on my mind today because of Venezuela. We've got a lot of Venezuelan clients, and Venezuela is having elections today as we speak. They're going on right now. And the polls show that the opposition is heavily favored to win, like 30 or 40 percentage points. They're favored in the polls. It's unclear what's going to happen. It's unclear whether they will win or whether the government in power will accept a defeat, we don't know what's going to happen. All right. But the point is, there's been a bunch of, Venezuelans have been fleeing the country for about a decade now. And like a fourth of the country has fled, a fourth of the population has fled. And there's hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers from Venezuela here in the United States. And some of them have been waiting for many years for their asylum interview or for their hearing in immigration court. And a lot of them, as of today, have a good case and have a good chance of winning, both because of things that have happened to them personally, but also because of sort of like the profile they have. Like they've been identified as someone who opposes the government, and therefore just that by itself is enough to put them at risk, because we're talking about a very a dictatorial regime that widely persecutes political opponents. And so, as of today, they've got a pretty good claim. But what happens if the opposition wins and they actually come into power? Like, they actually assume power and take control of the country. Well, what happens to the cases of these people, right? Because it's like, okay, well, from the asylum officer's perspective, it's like, yeah, I know that, some bad things happened. I know that, maybe, you legitimately were afraid of this old government, of the Maduro government, but Maduro's gone. He's out of power. So, you told me you were afraid of Maduro's people, of his security services, but they're all out. The country's led by new people, and they've got a whole new administration in place, and it looks like it's going to be better, right? So really, you don't have a good reason to be afraid, do you? So that's sort of the thinking. And the question is, okay, well, can you still win asylum based on the fact that maybe like when you applied, you had a good case, you had a good reason to be afraid? Or can you win, based on the fact that if you were actually harmed in the past, what happens in cases like this? Because it's not just Venezuela. This happens in other countries where there's a change of circumstances such that it's less clear that the asylum applicant now has a well-founded fear of persecution. And so actually this is tough because the law, the way that it's interpreted, is such that you do have to show that you, going forward, have a well-founded fear of persecution at the time that the decision is made in your case. It doesn't matter that you had a good case when you applied a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The asylum officer, if you have your interview tomorrow, they're looking at, tomorrow what the circumstances are in your country, not what they were a year ago, not what they were 10 years ago when you applied. They want to know, like right now when they're making the decision, do you have a well-founded fear based on what's happened to you, but also based on the conditions in your country? Now, there's two circumstances under which you can win asylum without a well-founded fear of persecution. So in the context, the example of Venezuela, let's say the opposition does come into power and 6 months from now, someone has their asylum interview and the new government is in power and like things are better. Human rights abuses have largely ended. It's looking good. And the people they feared are no longer in power, and there's no reports of those people doing bad things to anyone. Then the only two ways in which that asylum seeker could win asylum in the absence of a well-founded fear of persecution are one of two ways. If in the past first of all, they have to have suffered past persecution. They have to have been actually harmed in the past on account of a protected ground in a way that was sufficiently severe to count as persecution. But then they still have they have sort of one of two routes to get asylum without a well-founded fear going forward, which is if the past persecution was especially severe, if it was really bad, like if it was like they were like really tortured, really harmed, really, really bad, then you can get what's called a grant of humanitarian asylum. The other route is if you suffered past persecution, maybe it wasn't super, super severe, but it was bad enough to count as persecution. And now going forward, you would face other serious harm. That harm doesn't have to be connected to one of the 5 protected grounds. It can be based on anything. It can be like civil war that's not connected to a protected characteristic. It could be natural disaster, making life very hard and difficult and dangerous. Anything that would constitute other serious harm can lead to you being able to get asylum even in the absence of a well-founded fear of persecution on account of protected ground, as long as you first established past persecution on account of protected ground. So it's a little tricky, but the point is this. People that from countries like Venezuela, or I shouldn't use Venezuela because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know if the opposition is going to take power or not. But from any country where the circumstances change such that you no longer legitimately have a well-founded fear of persecution, you're only going to get asylum if you establish that you were persecuted in the past on account of protected ground, and that persecution was either super bad or there's some other thing that would be dangerous and really, really hard and bad for you if you had to go back to your country. Now, this is unfair, right? For people that have been waiting for years. It's like, okay, I would have won my case, if I had been interviewed a month ago, but now because it took another 2 months and there's a change of government, now I'm going to lose my case and I have to go back. And who knows if that, the opposition is really going to be good for the country, or if they're even going to be, respect human rights things, or who knows if they're even going to stay in power. A new party could come into power and hold on to power for 6, 9, 10 months and then get booted out in a military coup or whatever. And then you're right back to the persecution and you're right back to having a well-founded fear of persecution. But because of really unfortunate timing of when you happen to have your asylum interview, you're out of luck because you had your interview at a time where the officer said, oh no, it looks like things are better now. Things have changed such that you'll be okay. You don't have a well-founded fear right now. So tough timing. That's the way our system works, unfortunately. But it's been on my mind because, again, of Venezuela, but it's not just Venezuela. It can be any change of circumstances that makes it such that, okay, you might not have, you're not like objectively probably at great risk anymore. Like, let's say you fear private persecutors. Like if you, you fear like, say it's a family, sometimes you can win asylum based on family related things. And it's like a family member, a group of family members that have been targeting you and threatening you and harming you. Well, if they die, then, you don't have a well-founded fear of being harmed by them anymore, right? So it can be any kind of change of circumstance that leads to this complex situation. But, it's changes of government that have the capacity to affect thousands, and in the case of Venezuela, hundreds of thousands of asylum seekers affecting the outcome in their cases. So it's a massive, massive thing with this election today. It's a massive thing with potential to really change a lot of asylum cases. So we got to keep watching it. We'll see where it goes. But yeah, that's something that I want you to know about, is that changed circumstances can affect your asylum case. And, changes for the better, like if the opposition in Venezuela wins the presidency, it actually takes control of the government. That's a good thing for Venezuela, right? Absolutely. It's bad for the asylum seekers who are here, who are going to have their interview or decision, after the new government's in power, and because they're probably going to have a harder time winning their case. So good for the country, but bad for their asylum case when circumstances change in a more sort of favorable way for the country. All right. With all that being said, let us go to the questions. All right, what do you got? Let's go to TikTok. Let's start with TikTok. Raman just says, hello, sir. Raman from NC, North Carolina. How are you, Raman? Thanks for joining us on TikTok. Good to see you. Okay. Nice, I see you. Abraham says, why would the judge stop a clock? Okay, good question. Thanks. So actually, before I answer your question, let me say this. Listen, my law firm, we're based in Texas, but we help people all over the country. We have clients all over Texas, of course, but a bunch in California, a bunch in Florida, a bunch in New York, Chicago, around Atlanta, all throughout North Carolina, all over the country. So if you've been thinking about maybe talking with someone about your case, to see if you might be able to get some help that's going to strengthen your case and increase your chances for asylum success, then we should talk, okay? I want to talk with you. It's super quick and easy if you want to schedule a consultation with us. You go to winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com. Go there right now. No reason to wait. Go to winasylum.com. Schedule a consultation so that we can see what's going on, analyze your situation, tell you whether we think we can help you. It's super easy. It's quick. It's easy to do this on your mobile phone to get set up with the asylum strategy session. This consultation where one of our asylum professionals is going to go through your situation, analyze it, tell you what we think, whether we think we can help you. If we think we can help you, we're going to tell you how. We're going to tell you concrete steps that we're going to take to give you the best possible chance to win your asylum case. I want to talk, so let's do that, all right? All right, let's go back to Abraham's question from TikTok. The question was, why would the judge in immigration court stop your EAD clock? What are we talking about? What's an EAD clock? EAD stands for Employment Authorization Document, which just means work permit. So remember, after applying for asylum, you're eligible to get a work permit based on your pending asylum case after your case has been pending, meaning after you applied. 180 days after you applied is when you can get the work permit. But so there's a clock that is counting those 180 days, right? Like you can actually literally call the court and see what your clock is at to count up to you. At 150 days, you can apply. You can do the application. At 180 days, USCIS can actually approve your application. So there's a clock that's keeping track of how many days have gone by, counting up to that 150 and then that 180. So why would it get stopped? Why would a judge say, oh, pause that clock, freeze it? Well, this happens when there are what's called applicant-caused delays, meaning you as the asylum seeker do something that basically slows the case down. Now, the most common thing in the immigration court context is when someone, there's two things. The most common is when you go to your master calendar hearing and you say, Judge, I think I want to try to hire a lawyer. Can we postpone this hearing? Can we reschedule it to give me a little more time to talk with a lawyer and maybe hire a lawyer? When you do that, when you ask to reschedule a hearing, when you do it for any reason, this is called or considered an applicant-caused delay, and that will freeze your EAD clock. It will stop your clock, and that clock will not start ticking again, counting again, until you actually have that hearing that got paused. And that hearing might not occur for many months or even years after you paused it. So that can keep you from getting a work permit for months or even years. So you should not ask to reschedule a court hearing unless and until you've already passed those 180 days necessary to get your work permit, okay? The other big thing is if you request a change of venue, like if you make a motion to say, hey, I want to I moved and I want to transfer my case from one court to another, that can stop your clock as well. Those are the two main things. All right. So it's probably one of those things, Mohammed. Okay. Okay. El Patron says, hey, Brian, how long will it take for my EAD to be delivered after approved? Thanks for the question. The question is, once your work permit application gets approved by USCIS, how long is it going to take for you to actually get it, like in the mail? And the answer is usually it's super quick. Like if you go onto the USCIS webpage and you check your case status for this application for your EAD, your employment authorization document, and it says approved, like we made a decision, approved, it's being mailed to you. You'll probably get it within a few days of seeing that. Yeah, it happens quickly. And then when it's your first time applying, well, actually anytime, when you're applying for your social security card, you check the box on the work permit application that says, yes, I want a social security card too. Excuse me. When you're seeking the social security card, usually you get that in the mail a couple weeks after you get the work permit in the mail. That's usually the timeline for that. So thank you. Thanks for asking. All right. Cool. Let's go over here. YouTube, how are you guys doing? Nice. Okay. We have got Samuel says, is it true that the government doesn't care if I sue in mandamus? Thanks for asking, Samuel. So the question is the government going to hold it against you and take revenge against you if you sue the government to force your asylum interview? This question comes up all the time. We've been doing this a bunch lately where we sue the government to move forward a stalled asylum case of one of our clients, where our client's been waiting for years. They're sick of waiting. They want to get their interview so they can win their case and get on with their life with certainty about their future. We sue the government in what is called a mandamus lawsuit. It's an asylum delay lawsuit. It's called a mandamus lawsuit. And it's super effective. It works really, really well. But every time we talk about this with our clients, they're like, oh, wait, but exactly what you asked. They're like, oh, Brian, but is that going to make me look bad? Are they going to be mad at me because I dared to sue the mighty U.S. government? Could they hold it against me? And could it therefore affect negatively my underlying asylum case? In other words, could suing the government make it less likely that I win my actual asylum case? The answer is no. There's three reasons. First of all, the asylum officer might not even know that you've sued. When I was an asylum officer with the government, we didn't know that someone had sued to get their interview. That information just didn't go in the file. Number two, even if they do know, I don't think they're going to care. It's just not a big deal. We're a very litigious society. We sue all the time. For us, it's just not a big deal. It's understandable that someone in your position would take this step to enforce your rights. And third, they cannot use this against you formally. Like it's not one of the negative factors they can point to try to justify a denial in your case. It's just not how it works. It's not a negative factor in an asylum case. So they can't use it against you formally. Okay. So no, I don't think it's going to affect you negatively. I think you should do it. If you've been waiting for years for an asylum interview, we should talk about suing the government to force your asylum interview. Listen, our clients love this, okay? Because it works really, really, really well. Go to winasylum.com, WINASYLUM.com. That's where you can schedule this consultation with us. And we want to get some information. We want to hear about your situation, about your case. And we'll talk in detail about this mandamus lawsuit, this asylum delay lawsuit that is super powerful. Our clients love it because it works. They're able to get their interview, win their case, and get on with their life with confidence and certainty around their future, about their safety, about the life they want to build here in the United States. So it's super powerful, and yeah, we love it. All right, let's go back to TikTok and see what's going on TikTok. Okay, hello, says Peter. Hello, Peter. My immigration case was dismissed. Can I travel inside the U.S., says Daniel. Okay, cool. The question is, if your case gets dismissed from immigration court, can you travel freely inside the United States? And the answer is, as long as you've got a valid ID, then yeah, you can travel, whether by car or including by airplane. But listen, here's the thing. if you go to an airport near, or even travel by car in an airport near the U.S. southern border, I probably would not risk going near the northern border as well, but definitely near the southern border. You could have a problem. You could get detained, and because you don't have status. Once your case is dismissed, when a case is dismissed from immigration court, it does not give you any kind of legal status. You're in limbo. You don't have status unless you happen to have TPS. But other than that, you probably don't have status. And so, yeah, you could be detained. They're probably, right now with the current administration, with the Biden administration, they're probably not going to put you back in deportation proceedings in that circumstance. But if Trump wins the presidency, I wouldn't be surprised if they would. So the short answer is, look, yeah, you can, but don't go near the land borders, okay? Neither in car nor like to an airport, flying into or out of an airport anywhere near the land borders, okay? Okay, so UV says, is internet-based final hearing better than in person? Good question. The question is it better to have your individual hearing in your asylum case in immigration court done in person or virtually by video conference? So we're talking about what they call the individual hearing. This is the one where you're actually like fighting your case, presenting, explaining your asylum case. And usually at the end of this one, the judge gives you the decision. And the question is it better to do that in person or virtually by video conference? I prefer video conference, honestly. It's interesting when it became an option to in some cases be able to do it by video conference, or when some judges started demanding it for their cases. Myself, a lot of lawyers, myself included, were like, oh, it won't be as good virtually. It'd be better in person. But I've changed my mind. I think it's better to do it by video conference. Our clients are just much more comfortable. In video conference, you're at your own home in a very comfortable setting, and it's just less intimidating than being in a courtroom that looks all formal and stuffy with, having this prosecutor trying to intimidate you there in person. I think video conference is better. And as long as you have, reliable, fast internet, you got to make sure you have that, and you got to have like a quiet space to be able to do it where you can focus and not have interruptions. As long as you have good internet and a quiet place to do it, then I think video conference is better. And you can ask the judge. We often do, if our clients agree to it, then we often ask the judge to have it be done by video conference. And you can do that even if you don't have a lawyer. You can make that motion by yourself, and the judge. Some of them say no, but often they say yes. That's what I think. All right. All right. Marion, sorry for the mispronunciation, says, can I buy a house or open a business while my asylum is pending? Thanks for the question. The question is, when you've got an asylum case pending, can you do things like start a business or buy a house? Yeah, you can do both of those things. Listen, for the business part, you got to wait until you get your work permit, okay? After applying for asylum, you're eligible to apply for a work permit. You can send that application in 150 days after you've applied. The government can grant it at 180 days. And usually they do grant it pretty quickly, right around that mark. And you get that work permit. And then from that moment on, you can start a business. I mean, in fact, you can incorporate a business. You can like set up the structure before then. You just need to apply for what's called an ITIN or ITIN. It's kind of like it's like a taxpayer identification. It literally, the TIN stands for, it's individual taxpayer identification number. You can get that before you even get your work permit and set up the business, but you shouldn't start operating the business. You shouldn't start technically working until you get your work permit. Buying a house, absolutely. You can do that at any time. You don't need to wait to get a work permit to buy a house or to buy land or to buy a car. None of that stuff requires that you have any kind of immigration status. It might be hard to get like a loan or a mortgage for a house, but if you have cash, you can buy it. There's no rules against it. It won't negatively affect your asylum case. None of that stuff will hurt your asylum case either. So that's all good news, right? Right on. I like that you're starting a business. That's cool. That's exciting. Sheikh Anna says, what happens if I cross to Canada and seek asylum? So the question is, what if you go from the United States into Canada to seek asylum? Well, the U.S. and Canada have this agreement that says that if someone crosses from one country into the other by land, like as opposed to by an airport, they're going to be ineligible to get asylum in that country that they crossed into. The idea is like, look, you should have applied in the first country that you came to, and so you can be barred from getting asylum in this case. If you cross from the U.S. into Canada, you could be barred because of that. Now, there's some exceptions to that general rule that can make it such that you may still be able to get asylum crossing into Canada or get it in the U.S. from crossing from Canada into the U.S. But the general rule is if you cross by land, is that you're not eligible to get asylum in that country that you cross into, okay? And that you'll get returned back to the country you came from, okay? So keep that in mind. All right. Nice. Very much. Okay. Cool. Let's go back over to Facebook. What's going on Facebook? Okay. Is it better to have my case at USCIS or immigration court? Okay. Thank you for the question, Sarah. So the question is it better to have your asylum case heard in immigration court in a defensive asylum case or at the asylum office of USCIS in what's called an affirmative asylum case? Listen, first of all, you don't get to choose, okay? You don't get to just elect which of those you want. It goes by whether you're in removal proceedings. If you are in removal proceedings, you're going to be in immigration court. If you're not in removal proceedings, your case is going to be at USCIS. How do you know if you're in removal proceedings? Removal proceedings are for people the government's trying to deport, and they give you a letter that says, basically, we're trying to deport you. You need to go to immigration court. Once a copy of that document called a notice to appear gets filed with the immigration court, you are technically at that moment in immigration court proceedings. That means that you would file your asylum application with the court, and you're going to have your proceedings, your hearings with the court, not USCIS. If you're not in removal proceedings, if that stuff hasn't happened, and you want to seek asylum, you apply with USCIS, and you'll have an interview at USCIS. Now, if you get a negative decision from them, you can then get put into deportation proceedings, but at least you're going to start out with USCIS. Which is better? USCIS is better because you're not at risk of being deported, right? The approval rate is lower now at USCIS than in immigration court, so that's not good. But if it's a question of where you'd rather be, it's USCIS, because if you're in removal proceedings, you're pretty close to possibly getting a deportation order, and you don't want that. So it's better to be able to start out with USCIS, where you have a chance to win without being at risk of getting a deportation order. All right, cool, right on. Okay, let's go over to YouTube. How long? Mikhail says, how long does the mandamus take in this context? Basically, how long does mandamus take? Okay, so thank you for the question. The question is, how long does it take to get your interview with USCIS when you sue the government in a mandamus lawsuit to force your interview? When your case has been stalled and you bring a mandamus lawsuit and you sue them, how long does it take? It's usually pretty fast. We've been doing this a bunch lately in the last couple of years, and we've found that on average, from the time that we initiate the lawsuit, our clients are getting their interview, actually having their interview 2 to 3 months after we initiate the lawsuit. So it's usually quite fast. And then another huge benefit of suing to get your interview is that you also usually get the decision really soon after the interview. Because remember, people who get their interview, normally, and normal means not by suing, they might wait many weeks or months or even years to get the decision after the interview. But with a mandamus lawsuit, that lawsuit's sort of hanging around, and it's keeping pressure on the government to move things forward. So you're probably going to get that decision really quickly as well. So it's another huge benefit of the mandamus lawsuit as a means to move your asylum case forward. Okay? Yep, right on. Nice, thank you. All right, John Emeka says, what evidence do I need to provide to give me a better chance of winning my asylum case on TikTok? Thanks, John, for the question. The question is, what kind of evidence do you need to provide to help you win your asylum case. So first of all, you can actually win asylum without any evidence whatsoever, all right? You can win based just on your testimony, based on what you say on the day of your asylum interview or your immigration court hearing. But having said that, yeah, it's better if you have evidence that backs up your case, right? If you can access documents and things that support your case, you should do that. So what kind of things can be helpful? You know, if you have medical reports, like if you've been harmed, like attacked, and you went to get medical help and you've got medical records from that, definitely include those. If you have pictures of physical injuries that you endured from attacks, you should try to use those. If you've got text message, like you can take screenshots of text messages or, you know, WhatsApp messages of threats or anything else indicating that you were harmed or that you're being threatened, you should provide those. Witness letters can be very helpful. If someone saw something that happened to you or is aware of threats against you, has personal knowledge, they should write a letter, a short 1 to 2 page letter in support of your case, explaining what they know and to the extent that it's relevant to just showing that you've been harmed or that you're at risk or why you're being targeted in terms of, you know, what's motivating the persecutors. So those are a few things that can help. There's something that's a little bit different than evidence. It's called country conditions information. That is like reports about general conditions in your country, like from nonprofit organizations, from governments, things like that, or news articles that sort of back up your case. They're not going to be directly about like you, but you know, they can show, look, the government or the bad guys, whoever it is that I fear, look, they are doing this thing widespread in the government and like no one's stopping them, and you know, things like that, that can help your case as well. All right. Evidence can really help. I said earlier that, you know, you don't need it to win, but it can make a big difference. So if you can get it, yeah, you know, we help our clients, of course. We work through with our clients exactly what kind of evidence we want them to try to get. You know, we analyze their situation and we make a list where we say, hey, try to get A, B, C, D, F, G, H, you know, these things, and they get what they can. And then, you know, we analyze it and decide, you know, whether we for sure want to use it or not. But that's what we do with our clients, at least. All right. Thanks for the question, John. Hey, Brian, where do you live? Might need a face-to-face talk. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but if you mean, yeah, I'll address it like this. Where are we located, and can we do an in-person meeting? Thanks for the question. So my law firm is based in Houston, Texas, but we help people all over the country. It doesn't matter where you live. We can help you anywhere in the United States. We have clients all over Texas, California, New York, Chicago, all over the place, Atlanta, North Carolina. But we don't do stuff in person until some of the hearings and asylum interviews we do in person. But up until that point, it's all virtual. Everything from the initial consultation through the preparation, through the development of the case, and then even the preparation, like the practice sessions that we do before the interview hearing, all of it's virtual. We don't do anything in person up until some of the hearings or interviews we attend in person. But until then, it's all virtual. We do everything online, you know, through video conferences and exchanging documents online through Google Drive and doing surveys online and telephone calls. So that's how we develop our cases. We found that it works extremely well. I think our clients would tell you that it works flawlessly. It's our approach, and we think it's working really well, and our clients are really happy with it. You can see on our, if you Google political asylum lawyers Houston, you'll see that we've got, well over 350 Google reviews in just 4 years of being a business. And we have like 4.9 stars. So people are happy with it. All right. And we're getting good results. We're helping a lot of people secure their future in America through asylum. John says, can one invite their family with an asylum pending case? Good question. Before I address that, let me just remind you, for anyone who joined recently, I'm Brian Manning, and I'm an asylum lawyer. So I used to be an asylum officer with the government. But now, as an asylum lawyer, my law firm helps immigrants all over the country to secure their future in America through asylum. We're based in Texas, but we have clients all over. We can help you all over. And if you want to get in touch with us, really the best way to do that is go to winasylum.com. That's WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com. Super quick and easy to schedule a consultation. If you're on your mobile, for those of you on YouTube and Facebook, it looks like this when you're on your mobile. To set up that consultation with us, it's super easy. Do it now, like literally right now. Pull out your phone, go to winasylum.com, get it sorted, get on the books. Let's talk. All right, I want to talk and see what's going on with your situation and tell you, whether I think that we can help you. Okay. All right. The question we were about to address was, John asked, can you bring someone to the U.S. While your asylum case is pending? So the question is it possible to bring family members to the United States while your asylum case is pending? No, unfortunately, it's really not. Like there's no mechanism. There's no sort of visa type that is for this purpose. It's for a family member to come here while they've got a family member whose asylum case is pending. In fact, the very fact that you've got an asylum case pending is going to probably make it really hard for your family members to get a tourist visa, because the visa officer in the embassy or consulate where your family goes to do the interview, they may know that you've got an asylum case pending, and say, oh, you know what, when your family member goes to seek a tourist visa, they'll say, we know that your husband is back in the U.S. applying for asylum. He went and overstayed his tourist visa, therefore we suspect that you're going to do the same thing and just stay with him and get it in on his asylum case, and therefore you get denied. I say this with the experience of being a former visa officer. Before I was an asylum officer, I was a diplomat. In that capacity, I did visa interviews. So I say this with firsthand experience of how this works. So unfortunately, the answer is no. There's not a way to bring your family here. But once you win your case, then you can petition to bring your spouse and children here through what's called a Form I-730 process. Form I-730, but it takes a long time. Last I checked a few months ago, the processing time for that form was like a year and a half to even get USCIS to approve it. And then it takes a couple more months to do the logistics to have them go to the embassy or consulate to get what they need to travel here. So it takes a long time, unfortunately. Sorry, John, to not have better news for you on that. All right. The hair dumb experience on TikTok says, what's the difference between a master hearing and an individual hearing? Which one comes first? Thanks for asking. The question is, what's the difference between an individual hearing and a master calendar hearing in immigration court, and which one comes first? So in immigration court, there's usually two hearings, right? This master calendar hearing, which is a super weird name, and then what's called an individual hearing, which is also a weird name. The master calendar hearing comes first, and it's administrative in nature mostly. It's not where you fight your case and explain your case and tell your story and try to win. Rather, it's basically administrative stuff, like the judge explaining to you what your rights are. And really the most important thing at that hearing is they're going to go over with you the notice to appear in your case, the document where the government says, hey, we think that you're eligible to be deported for these reasons and we're trying to deport you under the law. The judge is going to review that with you and see whether you admit to the things that the government is saying about you in that document. And they're going to ask you, whether you want to seek relief from removal, including through asylum. But this is usually pretty easy. It usually takes 10 or 15 minutes. However, sometimes surprises emerge at these master calendar hearings. So it really is better to take you should take a lawyer, okay? Even though usually it's simple and straightforward, sometimes it's not. So you should take a lawyer. It can affect your case. The other one, the individual hearing, that's where you really fight your case, where you're going to explain your whole case and try to show the judge that you meet all the requirements for asylum. And that one's tough. That one's going to be a few hours long, and it's going to be grueling. It's going to be intensive, and it may be emotional. And you may be facing very hostile questions from the prosecutor and the judge. So you really got to be prepared for that one, all right? All right, good luck. Okay. Alinkotov says, if I work in a different state without changing my address, does it affect asylum? All right, so the question is, can you go and work in a state that is different from the state where your asylum case is pending? Will that mess up your asylum case? So listen, it all comes down to whether you are living in the new state. Anytime that you move such that you are now living at a new address, you need to update your address with USCIS through Form AR11. Right now we're talking about affirmative asylum cases with USCIS, okay? You do Form AR11 to show them that you moved. If you move into the jurisdiction of a different asylum office, your case is going to automatically get transferred from the old asylum office to the new one. You don't have any choice. You don't have to ask. They just do it automatically. Now, listen, the mere fact that let's say your case is in Texas and you get a job offer in Oklahoma. Can you go work in Oklahoma? Sure. As long as you have your work permit, you can work in any state. However, you need to inform the asylum office about your change of address. In this example, your case will not get transferred. Why? Because the Houston Asylum Office covers both Texas and Oklahoma. So, that's a scenario where it will not get changed. Let's say, though, you go from California to New York, then to go start working in New York. Well, then, yeah, you need to do the change of address, and your case is going to get transferred from an asylum office in California to New York. But so the question comes down to, like, what does it mean to live somewhere? Like, are you living, if you're going to take a new job somewhere, you're probably going to be living in that new place, right? Unless it's just for if you're there for 2 months and then you go back to your old place, I would not call that living in a place, being there for 2 months. I don't think you need to do an AR11 in that circumstance. But if it's like long-term, working in a new place, yeah, you need to do that. You need to do the change of address. All right. That's how that works. I mean, basically, listen, Alenko Toff, your question is, if I work in a different state without changing my address, listen, my recommendation is, if you move, you do need to do the change of address. That's my recommendation. All right. Okay. Does having a positive fear positively impact your case? Do you mean getting a positive credible fear decision? I'm guessing that's what you mean. Does that help you to go on to win your asylum case? So the question is, does getting a positive credible fear decision help you to actually win your asylum case later when it's time to actually present the case? And the answer is, I mean, it's like a first necessary and required step for someone that comes to the border without a visa. Most of those people get a credible fear interview. And if you pass that, meaning you get a positive decision, then you get to stay and fight your case, basically. If you get a negative decision and an immigration judge upholds that negative decision, you're probably going to get deported like pretty much right away, and you're not going to be able to apply for asylum and fight your case. So getting a positive decision is like the first step to even be able to really to apply for asylum for people that come to the border. So it's not like it's like, oh, because I got a positive, I'm definitely going to win my actual underlying asylum case later. No, it's like everyone who is fighting their case in court got a positive, almost. And we know that not almost everyone is actually winning their asylum case. So you can't be like, oh, I got a positive credible fear decision, so therefore I'm good. I'm going to win my case. It's not like that. Okay, it's a necessary step, but it's definitely not sufficient for you to have a strong asylum case. All right. Thanks for the question. Okay. Okay. Nice. Oh, here we are. There we are. You're welcome. My pleasure. Okay, let's go over to YouTube. Hey, YouTube. All right. Can I still hire you even though I already applied for asylum a long time ago? Johnson said that. Thanks. Yeah. So the question is, can you still hire my law firm even though you already applied for asylum a long time ago? And the answer is absolutely. Yeah. Listen, we help people all the time who have already applied for asylum, whether they did it on their own or perhaps with the help of a document preparer or maybe even another lawyer. The fact that you started the process not with my law firm in no way means that you can't come get our help now. We have lots of clients who decide to come to us because they become convinced that we're going to give them the best possible chance of winning their case. And so there's still a lot that we can do to improve your case, even though you already applied, whether that was recently or whether it was a long time ago. There's some concrete steps that we're going to take in a situation like this to improve your chances for success. Okay, there's 3 steps. All right. The first is what I call an asylum roadmap, a packet that we're going to submit to the court or the asylum office that shows, it's basically explaining your case on paper, showing how you meet all the requirements, so that when you walk into the asylum office for your interview, the officer's already going, you know what? Based on the documents, I already understand this case. I already see how they meet the requirements, and I'm planning on giving them asylum. That's what we want to produce in the officer's mind before the interview. The second step is preparation. We're going to extensively and intensively prepare you for your interview or hearing. And then the third step is representation. We're going to be representing you during your interview or hearing to advocate for you, make sure your rights are protected, and make sure the decision maker understands how you meet all the requirements for asylum. So those are 3 things that we're going to do that I think can greatly increase your chances to win your case. Okay? All right. Nice. Very nice. Okay. Mr. Bang says, or Bung, does it say Bang or Bungie? Mr. Bungie. I crossed the border. What do you think our chance for winning in court is? So the question is it possible to win your asylum case after coming to the U.S. border to seek asylum? What are the odds of winning your case? So listen, it's tough right now. The Biden administration has done a couple of things in the last few months that make it especially hard for people who come to the border without a visa to win asylum. Okay, it's not impossible. They've stacked the deck against you. They've made some rules that say basically it's going to be really hard unless you qualify for an exception. So it's hard. Okay, it's really hard right now. I'm fairly optimistic that these recent rules will get blocked by a judge that will say they're illegal. But right now they're in effect, so it's hard. But listen, even if you don't qualify for an exception, such that you are blocked from asylum by these recent Biden changes, you can still get another form of protection that will allow you to stay here. It's not as good as asylum, but it allows you to basically stay here and to work legally. So even if you don't qualify for asylum, if the judge is convinced that you're at real risk and you meet some other requirements, then yeah, you might be able to be able to stay and to work legally, even if you don't qualify for asylum. Okay. But it's possible. I mean, it's possible to overcome these hurdles and to win asylum. Okay. It happens. We hope people do it. All right. Nice. Very nice. Okay. Dr. Hamza says, many thanks for helping. Oh, thank you, Dr. Hamza. All right. T-Lops, sorry if I mispronounced that, says, on TikTok says, what do I do if my case has been pending for 7 years? I'm sorry to hear that. That must be really difficult. I'm sorry you're in this tough position. Okay. So the question is, if your asylum case has been pending with USCIS for multiple years, in this person's case, 7 years, what can you do? So listen, some lawyers will tell you, just ask them to schedule your interview, or do a humanitarian expedite request, or talk to the congressman's office about inquiring to try to move your case forward, or talk with the ombudsman's office at the Department of Homeland Security to try to get the case unstuck. But listen, those things don't work. What does work is suing the government. If you've been waiting for 7 years, there is a very high chance for success with a mandamus lawsuit where you're suing the government. You're asking a federal judge to tell the asylum office, you got to do your job. You got to give this person their interview and their decision because this delay is unreasonable. This works extremely well. We've been using it a bunch lately at my law firm, and our clients love it because it works, okay? So I think that, yeah, at 7 years, you're in a very good position to have success with this. I want to talk with you about this. Go to winasylum.com, okay? WINASYLUM.com, winasylum.com, so that we can talk in detail about your situation, give you a lot more information about this, and help you secure your future in America through asylum, starting with this mandamus lawsuit to get your interview scheduled so you can win asylum and move on with your life, all right? I want to talk. Go to winasylum.com, all right? Nice. All right. Let's see. Over on, let's go to Facebook. Facebook says, Atropia says, how much do you charge? Okay. Yeah. All right. So the question is, how much does it cost to hire an asylum lawyer for your case? So listen, prices, fees for attorneys range drastically. They vary drastically. You'll see some asylum lawyers charge like $3,000 for an asylum case, which is woefully inadequate. If someone's charging you $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 for an asylum case, you need to run in the other direction because they're not going to do. I say with high confidence that they are not going to do a good job. An asylum case is a ton of work. If it's done well, if it's done by a serious professional, it's going to be way more than that. Okay. Some people charge, I've seen people charge $25,000. Maybe that's worth it, but we don't charge that much. We charge between like $9,000 and $14,000, $9,000 and $14,000, depending on various circumstances, with payment plans available. Listen, it's a lot of money, but it's a lot of work to put together a super solid asylum case. And if you want someone who really cares and is in a position to give your case the attention and the energy and the passion that it needs, it's probably going to cost you a lot. So I think our clients would tell you that, it's worth it to do whatever's necessary to get the best help possible, especially when we're talking about just how important this is. We're talking about your future. We're talking about your security, your safety, and we're talking about your ability to stay here and build the life that you want to build in America. So, yeah, that's how it is. We're probably a little bit on the higher end. We're on the higher end of lawyers, but I think that we're better than most lawyers. I think that we try a lot harder than most lawyers as well. When I was an asylum officer with the government, I was actually shocked to see how little most immigration lawyers did to help their clients. Most of them did virtually nothing. They helped them fill out the asylum application form a little bit, and they'd be like, oh, I'll talk with you for like 15 minutes before the interview and tell you what they're going to ask you. It'll be fine. No, that's not fine. That's not enough. It takes a lot more than that if you really want to give someone the best possible chance of securing their future in America through asylum. All right. All right. Can I come to your office? Where is it located? Says Zanto Dadakash. Nope. I was mentioning earlier that we're virtual. We do everything virtually until some of the hearings and interviews are virtual as well. But some of those we go in person for. But all of the client engagement stuff that we do from the consultation up through the preparation is all virtual. So our office, we're located, we have a space in Houston. We have an address in Houston, but we do not do any consultations or any client stuff in person. It's all done online, virtually, video conference, telephone, exchanging documents online, that sort of thing. All right. Listen, go to winasylum.com. I want to talk with you about your situation. I want to see what's going on and tell you whether I think that we can help you, to secure your future in America through asylum. And it all starts with this consultation at winasylum.com. That's where you can schedule it. All right. Super quick and easy to do. Takes just like a minute or two to get on the schedule. All right. Go ahead and do it right now. Let's talk now. Okay. I'm Brian Manning, and that's going to be it for today, but I hope you're having a great day. And, we're going to be going live again very soon. I want to see all of you again live, and I want to answer your questions and talk with you and tell you, what you can do to increase your chances for asylum success. That is it for now. Thanks, guys. Everyone have a good afternoon and evening, and I look forward to